Hello, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's me, Cort Wrotnowski, the publisher of Yankee News, coming to you from the world-famous Parkway Diner in Stamford, Connecticut on this Monday, December 1st, the year of our Lord 2025. And what a week it has been, and we ain't even getting started. Oh my goodness. And yes, just to make you at home feel better, once again this evening, we do have in our company here our Vice President in charge of conspiracy theories, Bob. And we will have to call upon him on a few here. We were having a little back and forth before going on the air concerning chemtrails. Yes, chemtrails. Either they is or either they ain't. And maybe sometimes things ain't are is and some things it is ain't. That's the problem. All right. I want to start, actually, let's deal with the call to action. We still need you to subscribe. We did finally break 1,000. Yay, we did it. Yes. Okay, now we'd like to get to, I don't know, 1,100. That's our next goal, I guess, or 2,000 as the case may be. Yeah. But it keeps going, So please subscribe. Now, note to Ned Lamont. Note to Ned Lamont, who has decided to run for a third term as Connecticut's governor. Dude, you think we're going to forget about that bill, H002? No. And to make it really entertaining, I just need to add that I did download the bill, which is now a Public Act. Public Act 25-1. That's how we need to remember it now. Public Act number 25-1. And of course, the first thing you do in any bill or act is you have to define your terms. So account holder, allowable, commissioner, eligible costs, financial institution are of course some of the opening terms that they like to start with. But when you look at this phrase, allowable closing costs, it gets nuts. I'm going to spare you the details, but this is government overregulation of the housing market on steroids, okay? So we have every reason to fight back against this. I'm looking forward to working more closely with CT 169 Strong. And also Kate Prokoff, who's really stepping up to the plate on this too. This cannot be allowed to stand. And by the way, Ned, no, we're not going to forget. We're going to remember. We're going to remember who voted for these. And especially in the vulnerable districts, such as they are, there will be pressure. So just keep that one in mind. Meantime, oh my goodness. All right. Note 2, it's Tell Tongue time. Tiny tongue should try truth. There you go. Meantime, Tina Peters, screwed again. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, screwed again, and I'll be getting to her in a little while. Meantime, the theme tonight, courtesy of the madness that's been going on for at least a week and a half now with the so-called peace plan. So the theme is Putin peace plan or Silly Putty. Now you remember Silly Putty, at least some of the older folk out in the audience there. So Silly Putty was this sort of stretchy clay-like material that you could pull and do things with. And the best part was if you had a newspaper, you could flatten it out, press it on there, pull it up, and there was the image of the newspaper on the Silly Putty. Well, welcome to the Putin peace plan, okay? Because you've had people now just pulling and twisting, just like the image of that peace plan was on a piece of Silly Putty. And it is out of control. You bet it's out of control. Rather than dwell much on this, I just want to get to the main point why I think the peace plan is a non-starter. Now, look, I want this to be resolved. I want there to be peace in that area as much as anybody else. But a realistic and cynical assessment of the players is needed. So while we're busy focusing on Yermak and the corruption scandal that's happening in Zelensky's administration in Ukraine, you have to remember that, quote, something else, that's right, something else is going on in Russia. And take your pick. I will just focus on, actually I'm going to focus, there's two things. All right, again, shout out to Elvira Berry, B-A-R-Y, definitely look her up. She's this Russian expat who lives in Los Angeles, provides excellent, insightful analysis into Russian culture, since she too is from Russia. And yeah, no, there are more things that go on in a weird way. Okay, in a weird way, you can look at her description of Russia as resembling America back in the, I would say, the 1930s and 40s. But that's another subject for another day. She makes a very salient point about Vladimir Putin. Putin fears peace. That's right. Putin fears peace, and for understandable reasons. If there is a peace settlement, this will weaken Putin's position of authority in Russia. And he has reasonable fears that he could be shoved out after a peace agreement is made. This will be the end of his family, his close friends and associates. It will be a whole new era, and he doesn't want to be a part of that. So he's going to hold on to the power he has, and the way he holds on to the power he has, that's right, is to keep the war going. Now, if you need some more evidence that they intend not to have peace, that this is a silly putty plan, I will simply refer you to the recent announcement concerning the Russian federal budget. Have you looked at the Russian federal budget? Okay. It was at least a year and a half ago where Putin announced that Russia was on a war footing. In other words, they had converted to a wartime economy. They would grab whatever they could in the civilian manufacturing sector and use it to make ammunition, to make tanks, to make jeeps, to make airplanes, jets, to try and upgrade everything. That said, they still don't have the capabilities to manufacture any of these things at scale as needed right now, but they're working on it. And the point is, the budget, the Russian federal budget, makes it very clear that they are doing exactly that. All right? The Russian federal budget calls for the allocation of money for increasing tank production and other mechanized instruments of war for at least the next 2 to 3 years. So let me understand this. If you were going to look for peace, why would you have the nation put on a war economy that's going to go on for at least another 2 to 3 years? Does anybody sense a contradiction there? I think I do. How about you, Vice President of Conspiracy Theories?
Sounds fishy.
Yes, it does. Okay, so can we just announce the obvious, ladies and gentlemen? This ain't changing until something truly, truly serious happens to Russia. Now, I'm not going to get into all the things that keep being reported. You know, Turkey denying access, the Ukrainian drone attacks going after the shadow fleet, and other things that are going on. Not going to get into that. It's just clear that there is, if I may shift a little bit, there's a contradiction here that Mr. Trump needs to work out for himself. He wants peace, but he still has to sustain what's going on because, let's be honest, wait, what did I just say? Eric, didn't I just say that the Russian economy is on a war footing? So what does that mean? Any guesses here?
They can only sustain their economy as long as there's war.
It means they want to take more territory. They're not satisfied with what they have. Ukraine is in no position to invade Russia, although they keep attacking it. But here they're talking about creating those things, the tools they need to, quote, further the invasion of Ukraine.
Who is subsidizing Ukraine's attacks on Russia?
All right, that's you know what?
Answer the question.
The answer is obviously America and a few others, all right? I want to remind you that 25% of the Swedish military budget is dedicated to Ukraine, okay? Small compared to what we do, but you have there a country that understands Russia for what it is.
And the reason they're doing that is because we also give money to Sweden.
No, this is their money, okay? This is their money. They have an economy. So you can't, I mean, yes, the Europeans aren't doing nearly enough, but I think there's also evidence that they are starting the process. They're starting to build out the industrial supply chain they need to support a larger military complex, okay? So I'll give them some credit for that. Then, of course, did you hear about the leaked plan from Germany? The leaked plan from Germany where they intend to stand up an 800,000 man army because they love Russia so much, okay? That 800,000 man army is there. They're sending the message, Russia, you might want to think twice about invading us, because let me go back again. A war economy. How many times do I have to say this? A war economy. They're making war materiel for, well, that's right, war. So what's all this peace talk? Certainly not coming from Russia. Okay? So what do you think, Eric? Do we lay down, roll over, and die and let Russia take Ukraine? No, we're stuck. We're stuck just like Tar Baby, okay? Just like Brer Rabbit and Tar Baby.
I would disagree, but
Okay, so they're not going to take Ukraine. All this money they're spending on building
How
material.
is it our problem if they do?
Okay. And then Poland, then Lithuania. Okay, because along each step they acquire more resources, they get more men,
Again,
material.
how is that our problem?
Okay. In a narrow sense, you can argue that it's not our problem. But if you can understand
In a constitutional sense, we could argue that it's not our problem.
well, which constitutional article are you citing?
Articles of war, the president can declare war for up to 30 days.
All right, well,
Otherwise, he has to get the approval of Congress.
okay, well, we haven't declared war. Okay, this is us providing aid to somebody else, which seems to me to be an entirely different subject.
Small technicality, we haven't formally declared war. But we are.
We don't have any. Okay, so
at war
you're
with
saying
Russia
there are secret.
in perpetuity because.
You're saying there are secret American troops in Ukraine fighting the Russians.
I don't know, are there? I
No.
didn't say that.
No. There are some Americans who might on their own volunteer, but the notion that the federal government is anyway saying it's okay to do this, I don't think so. Because what else gets triggered? That's right, NATO. Oh, wait, I brought something up different now, didn't I? Yeah, NATO. Okay, what? All right, ladies and gentlemen, I need to also point something else out, where I just need to emphasize once again, Russia has no interest in peace. No interest in peace whatsoever, because they keep poking NATO. Poke them in Romania, poke them in Lithuania, poke them in Poland, okay? Poking, trying to provoke a response. That is not somebody who's looking for peace, all right? So it is incumbent upon us to not fall into their game, just saying, okay? But that's it. Remember, Putin fears peace. That's all you need to know. Okay, moving on. Venezuela. Oh, yes, Venezuela. Oh, boy. Let me just start with, Will sent me a 30-minute video of a doctor, what is it, Mearsheimer? Mearsheimer? Does that name sound familiar to anybody? Okay, so he's a respected academic. I think he's at the University of Chicago, I'm not sure, but, you know, he's an old historian who's studied, geopolitics for decades and decades. So his take on what's happening in Venezuela is liberal. I mean, that's the only way to describe it. He might as well be Jake Sullivan from the Biden administration in terms of how he sees a policy towards Venezuela. Okay, there is at least one fundamental flaw in Dr. Mearsheimer or Hirshheimer's presentation. Not once does he ever mention the fact that Maduro he stole the election, okay? Understand that several countries, the names of which I do not have at the moment, but besides the United States, there are other countries who have refused to recognize Maduro as the legitimate leader of Venezuela because he stole the election. Okay? that would seem to be kind of a central point about which you need to construct everything else if you can argue about what we should and shouldn't do with Venezuela. In the meantime, I'm going to throw in the other part. So the good doctor was concerned that we would be provoking a confrontation with Russia, primarily, in Venezuela by continuing along this path. Well, unfortunately, doctor, Russia has decided instead that they are going to leave Venezuela. So they're not going to confront America. They have to do their own political calculus when it comes to what's going on with Ukraine. And their calculus says that it's much smarter to leave than to try and provoke and confront America in Venezuela. Just saying. Meantime, the other point I need to rub in, doctor, is that you and others like you who like to cite that Venezuela has the largest, if not one of the largest, if not the largest, oil reserves to the tune of 330 billion barrels of oil. Okay, that's fine. So, you know, Venezuela's oil is noted for having what they call sweet light crude, which is very popular. That's the preferred oil. However, the vast majority of the 330, 310, 350 billion barrels of oil is tar. Tar. Heavy, asphaltic tar. The worst kind of oil deposit you could possibly imagine. The one that is least capable of being commercialized. So let's not get all excited because they have a large amount of something that's pretty useless to the rest of the world. And I want to remind you, doctor, that they have made noise about stealing the deposits in Guinea, Guyana, right? That was developed by Exxon. Not exactly what I would consider neighborly behavior. And there's more. I don't know. Maybe, doctor, you're okay with Cuba. I'm not. A lot of us are not. It's still a communist country, and you have no business propping up a communist country, but that's exactly what Venezuela is doing. Okay? So besides being a base of operations for Russia, China, and Iran, who are now wisely departing, you also have a number of these guerrilla movements throughout South America, which are being supported by Venezuela. I believe there's a group in Peru. I think there might be one in Ecuador. And also Colombia and Venezuela have always had bad relations with each other. So there are, and you know, the other thing is curious is I don't think that Maduro and Lula get along either, which is another, do you know anything about that? No, it's just, yeah. Okay, so what you have here, I've written about this before, I've talked about this before, it's a hub. They are the hub. Take the hub off, the wheel falls off, and all the communist and communist adjacent activities that are going on in South America suddenly grind to a halt, okay? While eliminating somebody who is an illegitimate ruler to begin with. So, okay, so doctor, you might want to start there. Yeah, okay. Meantime, so Maduro got that call, right? So we're told there's a little conversation, a little chat there between Trump and Maduro and saying, you know, Maduro, you better take you and your buddies out. I don't care where you go. You can go to Madrid, you can go to Moscow, it doesn't matter, but you got to get out of town, boy. Okay, but we keep getting differing versions of that and whether or not it's really going to happen. Maduro disappears, then he reappears, and he's still there, but he's not there, who knows? Yeah, so it's a problem, and we don't know how this is going to shape up in the next few days. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, yes, I'll give you one, Dr. Mearsheimer. Sure. Venezuela is maybe 5% of the drug trade that comes into America, fine. But they're still a part of it. And so maybe we've been making a big deal out of the small part. There's still the total picture that's being dealt with. And speaking of total picture, the other thing you never brought up, except in, I guess, disparaging terms, was the fact that we have this little thing called the Monroe Doctrine. Now, maybe you don't like the Monroe Doctrine, but I think it makes a lot of sense. You've had Steve Bannon talking a lot about what we call strategic hemispheric dominance. And you can be sure that when you have a country like Venezuela that illegally holds office and performs all these other things that are not in America's interest, we might want to focus on them just a little bit. Okay, I'd like to move on. I really need to move on. It's even bad enough to have a guy who stole an election. We have the famous seditious six, right? The famous seditious six. Well, the guy who's sort of floated to the top now in this is Senator Mark Kelly from Arizona. You know, buddy, I love the way you're doubling down on this. And yeah, it's unacceptable. I think the term seditious conspiracy makes a lot of sense, and we know that the legal remedies for conspiracies are much more severe than other forms of lawbreaking. So, yeah, if you haven't lawyered up now, maybe you need to real soon. And I look forward to you going to jail, you and the rest of you, because you didn't do this out of conscience. You didn't do this because you believe in America. No, quite the opposite. You don't believe in America. You believe more in the deep state than you believe in America. That's who you are. When you pull this stunt like this, no, no. I want you arrested. I want you in jail. And I can assure you there are millions and millions of Americans, including, why, yes, the vice president of conspiracies. He wants them in jail, too.
I want him held accountable for what he's done.
Yes, exactly. Held accountable. Where have we heard that before? All right, moving on. Okay, here we go, folks. I kind of spend a lot of time being worried about education, secondary education, higher education. Well, I'm sorry. Grade inflation is back. That's right, it's back. So that's why I have to put this up. Can you position that for me? Thank you. So let that just sink in. Okay, just let that sink in. All right, so the argument is that Harvard has been awarding A's to 60% of the grades awarded to students are A's. Let's just remind the audience that one of the problems that Harvard has been having is they've actually had to set up their own classes for math remediation of incoming freshmen. Okay? So shall we put this plain? You folks have got a hell of a lot of graduates from DEI-based programs in high schools around the country. And so what are you going to do now? You're going to cover it up. How do you cover it up? Grade inflation. That's how you cover it up. You should be disgusted. But you know what? Don't worry. I'm way ahead of it. Keep this up. Keep ruining the Harvard brand. And same for Yale and the others. And you'll just get what you deserve as far as I'm concerned. I'm going to tell you right now that a lot of people, myself included, who are working on creating the alternatives. We know what an excellent education looks like. We know what a great education is supposed to look like. You're destroying it. We're going to revive it. So, something for you to chew on. Meantime, transgender roundup. Yeah, there have been several articles in the news related to transgenderism. All right, so we'll start. Let's see, what's this first one here? Oh, yeah, Oregon. So, Connecticut, I think, pulled this stunt. There have been these very age-inappropriate surveys passed around to school kids asking them gender identity questions, but shall we say with a transgender twist. It's happened in Connecticut, it happened in Oregon. So some parents started to complain, but we know how bad Oregon is, right? It's worse than Connecticut, that's for damn sure. So, yeah. Meantime, it was Oklahoma, okay? A student filed a lawsuit against a transgender instructor who had been not exactly giving the student good grades because this student refused to give in and had her own very clear opinions which were not in line with transgenderism, right? So I hope she sues your pants off. I hope she takes you to the cleaners, just saying. Meantime, all right, this horrible situation, right, that happened with the Afghani assassin who shot the 2 National Guardsmen, all right? This poor woman who's died, the guy who's still hanging on for life here, and we've since learned that this is a product some really bad conduct, I'll go for just rank incompetence. Okay, and the Biden administration certainly lied through their teeth about how they vetted these people, how they're okay, and nothing could have been further from the truth. So here we have some number from this. So what are they called again? The zero, I'm trying to remember the term. The zero.
There's a zero unit.
Zero unit, I guess. Yeah, the zero unit. And these people are essentially, these are Afghanis who are trained to the level of Green Berets and Army Rangers and even Delta Force. Okay, and now these people have been unleashed on our streets. All right, what next? What next? And what are we going to do about it? So yes, so we hear that the Trump administration is doubling down on re-vetting, re-examining all these visa applications and any other information they can find of these individuals. And yes, they will have to go. But I want to remind you that there is a guilty party who has been the, big word, sorry, here it comes, big word alert, progenitor. The progenitor of all of this, and that would be Barack Hussein Obama. All right? And the ugly fact of the matter is, and I don't understand why he isn't in jail yet, so he is continuing behind the scenes to push this stuff as well. All right? So, yeah, there's something to be learned. So just call it, and you can blame Obama, but it's also Biden's sedition. All right, now I want to move on to something that's very troubling. I'm sure that you folks are quite familiar with China's social credit scoring system. Well, guess who else has introduced their own version? That's right, X. Did you read that article? Not yet, but okay. Well, I'm not going to drag you through the details, but I'm going to bring it up. So what's weird is, let me just see if I can find a few comments. See here, where she said this person had noted she felt that there was something wrong with what was happening with her posts on X. There was a certain, it just didn't seem right. So the, where did it go? Here it is. All right, let me just read this. So the person wrote this named Jet Cross. So she says, Jet here. Everyone feels like something has changed on X, like the lights dimmed on certain voices and mysteriously brightened on others. It's starting to feel like that commie Jack is running the show again. Well, let's get into it. So as she dug in, sure enough, there is a system. And what's the first part is that she actually talked to somebody in the X organization who confirmed everything she said about this, what should we say, X version of a social scoring system. It's based on, see if I can find there are like 5 things that they, in other words, every time you post, there's a score, but the score is composed of like 5 components. And I'm trying to find what those 5 components are. When I find them, I'll let you know. But we have the link up. Gotta go look at it, okay? And then, once it was explained to her, okay, then she went to, of all places, Grok. And she asked about this system that Grok has, this tiered system.
Grok is awful.
Well, you can say Grok is awful, but in this case, it told the truth, all right? It told the truth, all right? And it said, yes, we have this system. So yes, if you're conservative, if we don't like what you're doing, we're going to throttle you. We give you a low score. We make your life difficult on X. Okay? Where's Elon Musk? Is he a big phony here? Okay. Yes, a certain producer is nodding his head wildly. Yes, he's a big phony. And I guess maybe we should look upon this in terms of this woman that he hired who's supposed to head up. She's the president or the operating officer. I'm trying to remember her. But everybody was like, what? Why did you hire her? She's the worst example of censorship. And you put her in a key position? All right, so this is what we're seeing right now. Does it get fixed? I don't know, ladies and gentlemen, because it's called hear We go again, right? And all that said, so what you're left with is, okay, you have these lesser platforms, right? Truth Social, you got Getter. Who am I leaving out here that competes with X? There are a couple others.
Claude,
Claude.
Perplexity,
Okay.
there's Google's AI.
Okay. All right. So maybe this will drive conservatives to another place, but
I mean,
yeah.
ChatGPT is actually Claude, Perplexity, and ChatGPT are really my go-tos. All three of those.
Okay.
I seldom use Grok.
Okay. All right. As far as the AI part is concerned. Okay. So you have been warned about this. Again, check it. Check this out. But yeah, X is not our friend. If you're conservative, if you care about America, if you've got some patriotic issues, yeah, X is going to throttle you. That should make you feel just wonderful. Just wonderful. All right, next hot item. Yes, okay. Tina Peters, all right? Now, if you may remember from last week, there was the effort by the federal government to get her released from the state prison and put into federal custody. Well, I don't know how hard they're trying, but this is the problem I'm having. Okay, this has been dragging on, Pam, dragging on. I would think that you could show a little bit more initiative, be a little bit more creative, and just take a clue from Steve Bannon, be a little bit more aggressive about getting results on this.
She's deep state.
Pam Bondi, yes. Okay, probably. I think Alan has said as much. All right, well, then we need somebody else. Somebody else. It's not just her. Who is it? Todd Blanche is the number 2, I think. That's another person who's been picked out. So this is not good enough. So whoever's working with President Trump, you gotta find a way to work around these problems and get results, okay? That's what it comes down to, work around solutions now. Still too many deep state actors just sabotaging everything you do. So we've got to come up
These were all
with,
the people that Trump supposedly was going to get rid of.
yeah, right, well, but they also lie. You know, oh yeah, I believe in America first. Oh yeah,
Well,
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
If he had a modicum of like wisdom, he would, trees are known by their fruit.
Okay, that said, think about how long it has taken for Trump to give the appearance of realizing that Putin was leading him around by the
Yeah,
nose,
but what
right?
about the whole? I mean, then there's the matter of the Epstein files. Oh wow, we're going to see them. No, we're not.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to release him, but then they're going to say everything is under investigation, so they can't comment or talk about it.
Right, yes, well, this has already been done, yes. Yeah, I mean, this is just it, right? So you have one official saying one thing, they pass the baton to the next official then says something completely different, and then you go like, WTF. All right, anyway, so Tina Peters, something has to be done, all right? Her health is in danger with the way she's being treated, and the whole issue of election integrity seems to be lying in the ground for now, and it's just unacceptable. All right, I'm just going to mention quickly the food additive of the week is actually soybean oil. Now, you'd say, well, that's a foodstuff. Why would you call that a food additive? Well, because we discovered that there are things in soybean oil that, well, might not be so healthy for you. So I'm going to start with the first one. I'm pretty sure it's in the beans, but I'm pretty sure it's in the oil as well. They're called isoflavones. So I'm going to tell you my favorite isoflavone story.
What about riboflavin?
That's different. Flavones and flavin are different. Chemistry is a very tricky subject. So with flavones, what you have is a subset that are what you call estrogen mimics. So in other words, the molecular structure is very close to estrogen. That said, here's the next surprise. Did you know, ladies and gentlemen, that your body has all kinds of estrogen receptors in it? True for women and true for men. That's right. Men have estrogen receptors. Now, here's the interesting part. The estrogen receptors in both men and women's case, imagine this is a tibia, all right? So here's the end of the tibia bone right here. And then you got the other bone, the femur, the tibia and femur meet like this. Those surfaces there are rich with estrogen receptors that control, hold on to your hat, growth. So long as these receptors are exposed and you have some activity going on, you're able to grow. But if you have, for example, too much of these isoflavones floating around in your body, they're going to bind to those estrogen receptors and stop growth. That's right, stunted little children, because these estrogen mimics that you find in isoflavones bind to the estrogen receptors that are involved in growth. There was a story, anecdotal I admit, of a mother who had a child who she had been giving soy milk to from birth. Well, she noted that he was not growing as well as he should. Then at around the age of 1 or so, she switched to real milk, and he blossomed. He grew up, okay? So I'd say that's a nice little piece of anecdotal evidence on that point. So soybean oil, you want to get away from it. It's too common. You know, it's a major crop in this country, so you have the food companies always trying to find some other use for these things. But soybean oil needs to be avoided. So speaking of food, we're going to talk about the food aid scandal in Minnesota. So yes, you have these fake, phony, non-governmental organizations, nonprofits, taking all kinds of federal money, which is supposed to provide food aid into the Somalian community, and they're just funneling it for their own purposes. We're talking a lot of money here. When it's all tallied up, we're probably looking at $1 billion that was stolen by these phony Somali organizations. So should they go back to Somalia? Absolutely, but we'll claw back the money. Thank you very much. Now there's another problem here I just need to get to. Okay, we have been very upset to discover that a lot of illegal truck drivers in America, these Sikhs and others from India who come here, can't read signs, can't speak English, and they still receive commercial driver's licenses. They go out on the road and kill people. Yeah, well, now we got a new one. Illegal alien mail delivery. As if it couldn't get worse. Illegal alien mail delivery. We got to fix this stuff, all right? Anyway, my last story, it's really the biology interest, not human interest, but the biology interest story. Chernobyl fungus. Chernobyl fungus. Have you heard of the Chernobyl fungus? Okay. May I have some butter on that gamma radiation, please? That's right. Fungus that use radiation as nutrients. What? Yes. So it becomes an interesting concept. The biology guy in me has to say something about this, so forgive me. There's always a certain amount of background radiation, what we call ambient radiation, all right? And you have microorganisms, called fungus in this case, which still extract their nutrients from other sources in the environment. But now if the amount of radiation increases past a certain point, what? There's so much energy in the radiation, there's more to be gained from the gamma radiation to feed the fungus than there is normal food in the environment? A lot. I got to think about that for a while, and so do you. And on that happy note, I am done.